Alrighty, you guys ready? Okay, I want to appreciate and I thank all you guys for coming out on such short notice to this presser. I'm going to introduce Chief David Neslight.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. First, I want to start out by saying at this time, there appears to be no direct correlation or nexus to the Rock and Roll Marathon and this incident that we responded to. I also want to make sure everybody understands there's nobody outstanding, that this scene is completely safe, but you will still see officers out there for quite some time as we go through and process this crime scene. I also want to talk about the injured officer. Received a lot of well wishes, a lot of texts about how the officer is doing, and I'm happy to report that he is out of surgery. The officer is doing well and expected to make a full recovery, and I will visit him later in the hospital. As you can imagine, this is a very fast and evolving situation that officers reported to or responded to this afternoon, and I'm very pleased to say that that suspect has been apprehended and is now in custody here at headquarters. This incident started about 10:45 by a San Diego police officer being flagged down by a victim of a hit-and-run accident that happened at West A Street and Kettner. I now will introduce Captain Mike Hastings from our Homicide Division that will go into more of those details. Thanks. Thanks, Mike.
Good afternoon. I am Mike Hastings, H-A-S-T-I-N-G-S. I'm a captain with the San Diego Police Department's Homicide Unit. As you're aware, the Homicide Unit responds to officer-involved shootings, whether they're misses or hits. The Homicide Unit does these investigations, so it's nothing out of the ordinary that the Homicide Unit is involved with this case. I'm going to start at the beginning and try to give you some particulars on what we believe has occurred. Again, please keep in mind this investigation is ongoing. We're very, very early on. Things change, as we know, as facts end up getting revealed. And so please keep that in mind as we go through this fact pattern that I'm about to give you. At about 10:45 hours, a person flagged down a San Diego police sergeant who was working the Rock and Roll Marathon. They're reported to being a victim of a hit and run at West A Street and Kettner Boulevard. They also pointed to a vehicle leaving the area and identified it as a suspect vehicle. The sergeant followed the suspect vehicle to the A Street entrance to the city parkade. The suspect vehicle, a white Honda, was prevented from entering the parkade because of another vehicle being ahead of it. The sergeant walked up to the driver's side of the vehicle, and the suspect pointed a handgun at the sergeant. At about the same time, the suspect vehicle was clear to enter the parkade and did so. A team was assembled, and a member of that team headed up to contact the suspect. However, unexpectedly, that officer had a discharge of his weapon. That officer was transported to a local hospital and is being treated at this time. While all of this is going on, an officer saw the suspect still armed and on the upper level of the concourse. The officer fired but missed the suspect. A short time later, the suspect threw her gun down to the street, and she was taken into custody a few moments later by responding officers. We are working with Chula Vista PD at this time. As you were, Chief Neslight talked about, Chula Vista had an attempt kidnapping in their city prior to this incident unfolding here in San Diego. We're trying to ascertain if this is the same suspect that we have that committed that crime in their city. They have detectives on scene at their crime scene, and we hope to know that later on this evening. Are there any questions that I can answer?
People in the area said they've heard about 4, 5 gunshots.
Yes.
What would that be?
The sergeant that had the gun pointed at him also heard a noise, but he wasn't sure if that noise was the suspect vehicle going over a metal grate to get into the parkade or if it was a shot being fired. So we don't know what that is, but I believe the body-worn cameras will be able to tell that to us. We're still downloading those body-worn cameras, so we'll know a lot more as soon as we get that done.
Earlier we said that it was an airsoft weapon, is it?
Correct. It is an airsoft gun, and I believe there was a CO2 cartridge in the gun.
Was the person one part of the marathon?
I'm sorry?
Was the person that was the victim of the run was part of the marathon?
It's my understanding the hit and run was 2 vehicles, and then the suspect vehicle fled after hitting the victim vehicle.
Okay, so it wasn't someone running.
Correct.
The officer that shot at the suspect, where was was this officer relative to the suspect?
It's my understanding he was around the 3rd Street side. Now, remember, the concourse is open-aired for 10 stories, and so we had our helicopter there that was able to get assets in the correct position on where the suspect was. And again, Able does have this on camera, so we'll be able to take a look at their video.
And the officer that fired was within the parking structure, or?
Yeah, I don't know how close he was to the parking structure, but I believe that he was close enough to where he was able to fire.
So was he firing into the parking structure from outside, or was he inside and firing?
I don't know that yet. And let me tell you what happens with officer-involved shootings. Once we get called out, we send the officer back out to the scene with us, and they walk us through exactly where they were, what position they're in, about how many rounds they think they fired. And so once we have that done, I'll be able to answer that question for you.
The location of the Chula Vista incident?
I believe it was in the 400 block of East H Street.
And Mike, what was the relation between the suspect and the person that was kidnapped or
Yeah, and again, I'm going to put this out there. We are not sure that we have the same suspect for both, so we're very early on in this investigation. But if it is the same suspect, then it would be an ex-girlfriend of the victim on that side.
One of the suspects, is it a woman of what age?
We're waiting to get the identification confirmed. We have 2 different names for her, and so we've got to get that confirmed, and we will get that out to a press release to you literally 5 minutes after we have it confirmed.
You said there was 2 vehicles involved. So one was the victim of the hit and run, and the other one was the suspect.
Correct.
And for the victim, was this a serious crash, major crash, or minor fender bender?
Yeah, it's my understanding it was a minor crash with no injuries.
The officer self-transported,
No, he was transported.
but did he transport himself or?
No, medics did transport him.
Thanks.
Yes.
Was this his standard pistol, or was this a long rifle? Do you know what type of weapon?
For which weapon,
The
sir?
officer who
I don't know that yet, and the officer, from what I understand, was in surgery, and so we're not able to interview him.
You mentioned the officer that was self-injured is not the same officer that approached the suspect and doing it, right?
That's correct. So there's 3 officers involved. The first sergeant that was flagged down for the hit and run, that was one officer. The second officer is the officer that had an unexpected discharge of his weapon, and then the third officer would be the firing officer at the victim, or at the suspect, rather.
How long was their family? We're allowed to finish.
Okay. I'll turn that over to Chief Nestle. Thank you.
Yeah, it's my understanding the race was delayed about 30 minutes, and it involved about 4,000 runners. And then the course was reopened, and those runners were given the option of whether they wanted to finish or not. So,
did they suspend the entire race, or just the portion of the race near this incident?
pretty much when the incident happened, they basically just froze people on course. And then again for about 30 minutes, and then the course was reopened, and the race was allowed to continue.
No reroutes? Same course?
As far as I understand, yes.
We don't have an age range or identity of the suspect at all at this point.
I can tell you we have a black female in custody at this time. And we're working it out, as Captain Hastings said, we're working out with Chula Vista right now to determine if what happened down on East 8th Street and what happened here in the city are one and the same, committed by the same person. Still working that out a little bit here. I don't know, ma'am. I also want to say, again, very fast evolving, but I also want to thank the other law enforcement agencies. I know I saw the sheriffs, South California Highway Patrol, Harbor PD. I appreciate all those units sending assets our way to help us get this situation closed very quickly. So. No, I don't know that. That's something we can get back to you on that.
Was the incident in Chula Vista also this morning, or was it
Happened this morning. That's the incident we're looking at.
How did this incident in Chula Vista come to San Diego police? How did
Chula Vista put it out. They were looking for a suspect in this case, and that's how it came to our attention.
so like a situation where you just got a description in?
And they send out a bulletin.
One last question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And we just want to let anybody out there, any witnesses know that might have additional information. They can reach out to San Diego PD through our communications, 531-2000, or they can also call Crime Stoppers at 1-888-580-8477. Thank you.